That actually, that's lovely because speaking of building up, that
Mm-hmm.
actually leads us right into our first conversation, talking about one of the fighters in the main event. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, the main event is Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill, light
Mm-hmm.
heavyweight belt. Um, so a little history about Alex for those who don't know. Which at this point, if you don't know anything about Alex, there's not much to know. But if you don't know, I don't know how, because he pretty much came into the UFC 2021, took the UFC by storm. He
Yep.
now has a 6-1 record in the UFC. Basically came in because of his history with then champion Israel Adesanya. Basically won 3 straight, ended up getting a title fight, beat Izzy in the title fight, got his title rematch, or Izzy got his rematch. He got his first
Mm-hmm.
title defense. Izzy ended up beating him. Alex move up, go right to a light heavyweight, fight a legend in Jan Blachowicz, then beat Yuri for the belt. After that, now this is going to be his first title defense. So three 2024, yeah. So 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
7 fights in the UFC, 2 belts. If he wins this, that's going to be 8-1, 2 belts and a title defense. And I would like to add, because this is a whole nother conversation, but I do want to
Mm-hmm.
ask: do you think title defenses are crucial for MMA fighters' legacy?
Absolutely. I think it's like asking a boxer, like, you know, can you defend your belt? And I know some of them just win a belt and move up. And that's kind of what they do now.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't the case before. It's like you defended whatever weight belt they had back in the day. It's only now recently where you have all these different lineages of belts in boxing.
So many.
So many, and it's all convoluted now, and it's not friendly to newcomers. But with MMA, it's friendly. I think
Mm-hmm.
enough that you can understand it, even though there's a huge gap in some weight classes. But it's still easy, and then it's easy enough to understand that it's hard. It's a hard sport. It's not an easy
Mm-hmm.
sport because it's literally mixed martial arts, which includes every style except punching in below the belt. You can't do that, but pretty much everything else you could do, within reason. And in some promotions, you could still head kick, soccer
Yeah,
kick. And that to some viewers that's violence. To some others, it's like yeah, that should be
it's
everywhere.
part of fighting. Yeah.
It's part of fighting. Kneeing a down opponent, it's part of fighting. Don't get kneed in the head if you're good. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's something like Joe Rogan says, like when it comes to like BJJ and wrestling, it's like you can't get out of it, then oh well, too bad. The ref shouldn't stand you up. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
components to MMA that just when you win a fight, that's impressive in itself. When you win a belt, that's great. Can you defend it now against all challenges of all forms of mixed martial arts? And there's been an array of champions that were either well balanced or stuck to one practice and were able to do the deed. There's a few champions out there that never were able to defend it. You
Yep.
know, but does that affect their legacy? Maybe, but it truly depends. Best example: Eddie Alvarez won the 155 belt from Dos Anjos. Didn't defended it once, lost it to McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
Tough first opponent. First of all, like come on,
Right, right.
that hype train.
And
Like
that
come
was
on,
a crazy fight.
it was a crazy fight, but it's crazy. But it's also good. Back in the day too, you had to give McGregor his props because he was on a different level somehow,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
made a veteran, a guy who wasn't even that old yet at the time. He made him look like he was a rookie with the striking, which
Mm-hmm.
is crazy. And Eddie's a
No,
wrestler.
it
Yeah,
made no sense.
Eddie could have wrestled him. Eddie's a wrestler, but his striking was what propelled him to great heights because he fought overseas and he fought in these other promotions that weren't the UFC, but people saw him and he won great classic fights. Um, and then he won the belt in the UFC and then didn't win it and couldn't defend it. But it doesn't affect his legacy too much as one of the best lightweights to ever do it. One of the guys below 150, 170, 185. He's regarded to me, in my opinion, he is one of my personal favorites on that list of top under 185, under 205, one of the lighter weight guys.
Oh yeah.
But he couldn't defend the UFC belt, and that sucks. It really does suck, but I don't think it affects his legacy. But for someone like, say, I don't know who's another person who, I think Sean
So
Sherk.
my
Maybe?
go-to is always Khabib.
Yeah.
High record outside the UFC. A lot of it was questionable.
Sure.
In his prime, got where he needed to go, got his belt, didn't stay too long. Obviously, we all know why he left. But does that affect his legacy? Like you made a good point. Like I feel like it doesn't necessarily makes someone's legacy drop, but long title reigns always separate
For sure.
certain people from the rest, you know?
For sure. But if you look at the competition he faced while as champion to defend, it was no slack, man. It wasn't. It wasn't bums. It wasn't last minute replacements. It was killers.
He put a couple top contenders away for sure.
Yeah, he put Gaethje away, which could probably, in my opinion, should have been his toughest opponent. He finished him in what, round 1, round 2. He put him to sleep, and that's a guy whose striking is scary. And the craziest part is, and people keep forgetting, Gaethje's a wrestler. He was a Division I NCAA champ, I'm pretty sure. But he was a Division I wrestler, and that's what he was known for, was a wrestler, had cardio for days because he trains in Colorado. But it was his hands that, again, another guy who just relied on his hands and got him to where it got him. And he just abandoned his wrestling. He could have probably out-wrestled Khabib, but he wanted to beat him out on the feet, and that cost him. He got put to sleep, and Gaethje, he knocked out some of the best too. And then Poirier, he was in his prime. He's still in his prime. People were knocking him off in his last fight. He was the underdog, which was crazy.
Yeah, crazy. I actually had an argument with our Franky. He picked the knee, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, do you know? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's about to go in there and knock Poirier out. I'm like, there's only one person who could probably stand in the pocket with Poirier, and it's the one that knocked him out with a head kick.
Exactly, Gaethje. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know who y'all think he is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I get it. Like he's up there in age now. He's what, 35, 36 now. But that doesn't mean anything. I get it. When you're older, for any fighter, when you're older, like you decline. But he looked fine in there. He looked good. I know some people were saying, I think even Rogan was saying, like, oh, he looks like he's tired and gasping.
I think he's more more cautious.
Yeah.
Or not even cautious, more technical. Like he he could bang in there, but he's trying to get himself a title shot. That was an important fight for him. He wanted to make sure. Like, and I like my homeboy said the same thing. He was like, "Oh, he looked a little slow." I'm like, it's not slow to me. Like, I think he's
picking it. He's picking his shots.
He's picking his shots. Exactly.
That's what a Fort Snyder does. He was a reckless guy at 145 at one point. Sure, and guess what? He got knocked out in those fights in 145. Even in the early 155 days, he got knocked out by Michael Johnson. No offense to Michael Johnson, but he sucks. Like, that's a guy who's not aged well. But he's still, I'm proud of him that he's still out there banging, trying to put on good matches. But Poirier is the same stud. He's not a diamond that's rusting. He's a diamond that's still shining and plans on shining, and maybe deserves another shot, at least one more.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm pretty sure he got the next shot, right?
Well, we don't know yet. I think it depends, because there's two pretty important lightweight fights going on this weekend.
Right, in this fight, yeah. So we'll see. We'll definitely see.
So yeah, but legacy, like with that, it's like, like, and I guess when people who don't win a belt, like, say, who's someone who like, perfect example, Donald Cowboy Cerrone never won a belt, but regarded as one of the best. It truly does depend. I don't think it affects your legacy so much, but it does put you in a lower tier. We like to put things in tiers and labels. Like, we can put GSP S tier, top of the top, Mount Rushmore of GOATs and pioneers of MMA. And then there's Kamaru Usman, who's more modern, and you could definitely put him in the modern wing, in the modern Mount Rushmore of MMA, because GSP laid the groundwork. Kamaru Usman is the fruits of those labors,
Yeah.
he's the guy. And had he never won a belt and just kept on a crazy massive win streak, we would probably regard him as a top fighter. But he won a belt and he did incredible. In fact, people miss him now probably because he was super active.
Yeah.
So, and that adds to his legacy. And to me, he is on my Mount Rushmore, at least for the modern age.
Oh yeah. I would say
Stuff
him
like
and
that.
Izzy. I would
Yeah,
say
exactly.
people don't understand that not we, because I didn't, but a lot of people took them for granted
I think so.
during their prime. A lot
And
of people just
DJ.
didn't understand.
Hmm.
Yes, they just didn't understand what we were witnessing. And
Exactly.
now that they're both like got a chance to come back, obviously, but once both their reigns ended, I was like, oh, like damn, like
Yeah.
that's how you know you're getting old. Your
Yeah.
favorites are starting to go down.
Yeah.
And obviously, Alex Pereira, the person we're talking about, is one of the ones who took him out. So as of right now, as a two-time champion, obviously with his whole resume of
Hmm.
kickboxing just in other
Hmm.
organizations, if he wins, get his first UFC title defense, where would you place him? Can he be considered a GOAT? Is it a MMA GOAT but not a UFC GOAT? Like where would you place him if he were to win this first title defense versus Hill?
It's tough to say. I think if whoever you ask, I think if you ask like someone like who's more liberal, like Joe Rogan, he would say he's probably one of the best. He says that to everybody that they're one of the best, and that's fair because this sport is not easy. And to go from kickboxing into MMA, but also like people didn't realize that this man is like I'm pretty sure he's a brown or black belt in jiu-jitsu. So he
Yeah, at
knows
least a
how
Brown.
yeah, at least a brown for sure.
Hmm.
So he knows what he's doing on the ground. And he has Glover on his side, who Glover is a black belt. Has been won countless championships around the world for his grappling. So he has the teacher and the studies and the skill to defend himself. I mean, he didn't show it against Izzy because Izzy somehow, he pulled out that MMA, showed
Yeah,
him he could wrestle. So, it's tough to say. I think I feel like those old school guys who came up watching it would say no. Um, but also there's some of them that are probably say that they're just going to give you the same classic answers of BJ Penn, uh, Matt Hughes, GSP, and all those guys, like all those guys that have since been left the sport. And then there's going to be people like myself who I think I'm cautiously optimistic and rooting for him in the sense that if it happens, great. I don't know. Time will tell how we'll hold him in regard. Because if he wins and defends it, I hope he continues to defend it, and
right. Yeah,
give him another year and see what happens. And I don't know when he plans on retiring because he is up there in age, and he has not much to prove because he made his money in kickboxing, knocked
yeah,
out a bunch of guys, won a bunch of titles, and now he's just here for fun. He did this for fun. He literally did this just to see if he could do it and challenge himself, and he did it. And that's impressive, and that's what you have to applaud. You've never
nah,
seen this.
he
We've never
definitely
seen
did
this.
that because of that Izzy interview.
Probably,
Talking about
and
that one man in the bar, he was like,
yeah,
excuse me. Definitely pulled him out. Well, obviously he was still fighting.
yeah.
Um, but I would have to say, like, see, I think so. I personally do think he has to go down as probably one of the best kickboxers in the world and
Absolutely,
kickboxers of all time.
absolutely.
'Cause at that point, he's one. Obviously, outside the UFC, he's one of these. I think it was like Waco. He won three different kickboxing
Hmm.
championships for kickboxing in three different organizations,
Yeah,
and then
Glory was
obviously
one of the bigger
Glory
ones. Yep.
was the bigger one where he became the first two-time division for kickboxing, and the same belts he actually weight classes he won in the UFC. So
Hmm.
I do believe he'll go down as one of the MMA goats with longevity. But I think like I don't think it makes or break a case when it comes to longevity or just having a reign. But I do think that you can't just come in there like unless you win three rings or three belts, then maybe you could win three belts and dip. But like especially since I know he got fast tracked to the first belt,
Yeah,
he
for
didn't
sure.
fight no top contenders in
No,
the middleweight class. No one even close.
no.
Sean Strickland was the closest one, and that was no one was even impressed by
Yeah,
that.
no.
So I felt like if he would have got through a couple of those top contenders, then got Izzy, then moved up, then it would have been a little different.
Had he fought like Costa and
Yeah.
Whitaker,
Oh yeah.
that would have
Oh yeah.
solidified
That
him.
would have solidified his resume. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And at that point, he would have been 10 fights deep with 2
Mhm.
belts. It would have looked a little better because you fought former champions, top contenders,
Mhm.
and now you can leave a little bit off. So yeah, I think without that, especially because Izzy came right back and KO'd him like that too.
Mhm.
I definitely do think that he has to defend his belt successfully and then do more on top
Exactly.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, had he won the first title defense, and then maybe moved up and won double champ status simultaneously,
Mm-hmm. That would have
absolutely
been
can
different
put him in
too.
that
Yeah.
conversation for sure. Because like no one would have gotten that fast. No one's ever
Yeah.
done it that fast, and no one still has done it that fast the way he did. Yeah, he doesn't have the middleweight belt, but he won the 205 belt relatively super fast. Like it's
Yeah. Second
ridiculous.
fight.
Yeah, you know. So there's room for conversation down the line. For now, I can't put him in the GOAT conversation, but I'll put him down as one of the better modern day MMA fighters or kickboxer turned MMA fighters or second sport fighter.
Yeah, definitely. Especially obviously with his resume before the UFC. So with that now, that's if he win. Now if he loses, that's 2 titles and 2 titles lost in the first defense.
Mm-hmm.
Does that affect his legacy, or does that drop his status, or does that not allow him to move up afterwards, even if he wins a couple more fights?
Man, that's a question I don't think anybody's asking. No,
Yeah.
I know I watch these YouTubers and I'm subscribed on the apps to all these MMA news outlets, and no one's asking that. It's just, which is crazy. Which I guess in a way, like you could
I don't think
argue
they're
they're different.
expecting it.
Yeah, well,
They're
Hill
not
isn't a
expecting it.
huge
Yeah.
underdog either, but
Yeah.
it's like they're thinking like Fierre's got this. But the question really should be asked, like, what happens if he does lose? Like, where does he go from there? Does he go back to 185? Which, by the way, I don't know how he ever
Can't
made
make
weight.
that weight.
No, he can't. He can, but like that man.
Oh, that's the
Or,
biggest weight bully I've ever seen in the
right,
UFC.
dude.
Ain't no way,
You
man.
saw how big he got, or not even like brief. Like the report was after he like rehydrated, he was like in the 220s, I think.
Yeah.
Even then, like even before he's just training in the gym, like no fight, not plan, or maybe just beginning weight cutting. He was like at 230,
Hmm.
234. That's heavyweight.
Yeah.
That is heavyweight by 25 pounds.
For a middleweight, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know how that man made that weight. Kudos to him. 205 is where he should stay. I think he should continue to fight there. I think there's challengers that he could put over. I'm talking like wrestling terms almost here, but like, hey, if he would give him the rub in that money fight, he should do it. Like, there's contenders below him. Like, I'm sure Yuri would love that rematch if Fiera loses. And if Fiera wins and Yuri wins, you could easily book that again in the summer if both are healthy. But then you have Alexander Ratchik, who got hurt and was definitely in line to get.
He's waiting, yeah.
To this weigh in, and then you can, he could easily see him sneak in there. I gotta see the 205 list, but
I was about to say, honestly, like, just think about it. The fact that Glover had a shot, like, there's only about 4 or 5 top dogs there. The rest of them are the newcomers. Like, they get potential, but like you are right. He's already faced Jan. He's already faced Yuri. So if he loses to Hill, like, what is it? Rinse and repeat. Like, where is he gonna go? He's already at the top. He's not gonna go fight lower people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
exactly.
that's definitely what I've been thinking about. Because like I think because I don't want to necessarily, like, I do have to take Alex, but I would be lying if I didn't say I kind of hope Hill knocks him out.
I don't. Hey, Hill's got.
I think people sleeping on him so much, and people don't like. He got a good story too. He definitely, like, I think he's. I'm not sure, but I think he's less than 10 fights too. In the UFC, I'm saying that light heavyweight's a very thin division.
Yeah, you could argue it's thin, but it's kind of stacked, man. It's stacked.
You think so?
I think it's stacked. I mean, people soured on Magomed versus Jan. They also need to rebook that, but Dana White was super pissed after that fight when they both ended in a draw. Remember for the vacant heavyweight
Yes.
belt?
You know what? You're right. I forgot about that.
But Mahmoud is number 3, man. Like you can't deny him, and he went out there and won. So like I think he won his last fight. I think he fought recently. So like you gotta give him something. You
Yeah,
gotta.
there's a good top 5 there.
There is a good top 5, and then there's guys breaking into the top 5. Someone I'm personally rooting for is Khalil Roundtree Jr. I love that guy. I've been
Yeah,
following
yeah,
his
he's number
story for a
8.
long.
I'm looking at them. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
he's
looking at
number
them right
8.
now.
He actually used to live near where I worked.
Nice.
Back a couple years ago. Because he was living in the city and here in New York. And I never I couldn't bump into him, but I love his story and I'm rooting for the guy. I know him versus like even someone like Johnny Walker. That's a rematch you can
Yeah,
have,
I was just
Khalil,
looking at
because
that. Yep.
he lost to him, but like now they're close, and I would love to see that rematch, or someone like Alexander Ratchik, because like Khalil's a strict more. Well, now I won't say strict because he's been putting in the work on his ground game, but he's a striker, and a lot of
No, I
these
was about to
guys
say
are
10
strikers.
first round knockouts. I was just looking.
Yeah, like a lot of these dudes in the top 5, top 10 are all striker. Volkan
Makes
Ozdemir
sense.
is a straight striker. He's a striker. Uh, Nikita, I can't remember if he's a striker or not, but I know like Ratchik is definitely a kickboxer. Jan is clearly a kickboxer, especially with
Yeah,
his
yeah.
Polish power. So like I don't think it's that thin. There's a lot of like killers on that in that list.
Yeah, I see. No, I'm definitely looking. That's some.
If
I
anything, like
think.
maybe
Yeah, I think is
might
you know
be
what
there.
they're just. I felt like we just got so used to the top few,
Yeah,
but now
Jones.
that I'm looking, yeah, they are deep. Yeah,
It's deep. Like I've seen all these guys
yeah.
fight. Like I saw a Spam fight Smith, and
No,
that
some
was a
of these
great
names
fight.
are sticking out to me.
Yeah, Alonzo
Yeah,
Meadowfield cracked the top 15. That's great. Like
like
Alonzo
I definitely
Meadowfield.
knew the top 5, but now I remember I did see the Johnny Walker and
Mhm.
Khalil Roundtree fight. You still got Anthony Smith in there, even though he's kind of hanging on.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he's
yeah,
done. That
yes,
the Jones fight
and
took a
yeah,
lot out of him. I mean, he still beat some killers,
yeah.
and Span, but like Reyes, like man, that's another guy who suffered after the Jones fight.
I was about to say he's still up there too.
He
Yeah,
was gonna be the guy to replace Jones after he did leave, and it was not meant to be. It just sucks.
yeah,
But they're still killer, man. Like light heavyweight is still a killer. Heavyweight, on the other hand,
yeah. That's where it's
yeah,
then.
that I think that's where it's thin. I mean, yeah, there's good fighters on there, but like none of them.
Nah,
Like,
because truthfully, obviously you got Jones. I'm looking at the list right now.
sure,
Um, you got Cyril Gain, Aspinall, uh, Poplovich,
Pavlovich
and
he was
Miocic.
undefeated, But okay,
Other than that, it's and even then, the matchups matter because Gain might lose to Aspinall or Poplovich, but he might beat Stipe.
yeah,
And you know what I'm saying? But besides that, like Curtis plays him for. I've been saying that for a while. When I used to tell my homeboy about Derek
mhm.
Lewis, I'm like, they're gonna always give him fight nights, but he's never gonna win a belt.
Nah, he's a cowboy of the heavyweight division, man. He's a
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone
Same
of
thing
the
with Tai
heavyweight division.
Tuivasa,
Yeah, he's gonna replace essentially
Derek Lewis.
Lewis. He's gonna replace
Uh-huh.
because Lewis is up there in age. I mean, I know he signed a new deal, but like let's face it, like Lewis, I don't know how many more fights he's got left. Um, I love watching him fight and knock people out, but like yeah, like Ty's on a terrible losing streak right now. Hopefully he still sticks around. But you like to have like these guys that are reliant and take fights, but at the same time you kind of get tired of seeing them because like they're just going to be nothing but gatekeepers. And I hate using that term like it's like a slur, but there's truth to it. There's a reason why it became a thing. Why gatekeeper is a thing because essentially these guys become gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And that people are scared about that with like Max Holloway, another person who's think that he might become a gatekeeper. But
He already is.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're pretty much right because he couldn't be fucking Volk.
3 times, and he refused to move anywhere else because he still thinks he can beat him. But at this point, now with Volk getting knocked out twice in a row, you got your best shot, brother.
Yeah.
If they somehow make you get a 4th fight, give it your all. But after that, just retire because you're not going to any other division and winning.
Yeah, I know it's strange. I mean, I think he could beat people at
He could fight.
135. He could beat
He could
people.
fight.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not winning no belt.
Well, but we'll see. Like, I don't want to move
Just write him
forward the
off.
conversation either,
Yeah.
too. But like, he could change a lot of people's minds if something goes down this weekend. So
Yeah, I would say no. We can't write him off.
he can't.
My man been working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, so actually that takes us right into our conversation.
All right.
Yeah, because we pretty much both talked about what we thought Alex resume and status would be if he
Mhm.
wins and loses. So definitely, I think we're both on the same page there.